It's week 9, Princess Steps. Welcome everyone. I just have a couple of quick announcements. The virtual Princess Steps 5K, 10K half marathon website is up and registration is live. We already have about 21 people registered, so thank you. That's awesome. Also, the bra fitting event that Mimi and I did, or that we did here at Gallagher Fitness last Friday, Saturday, was so successful, we're going to do it again. So if you still would like bra fitting, you get the 15% off and gift with purchase, and then you're eligible to win a head-to-toe prize from Brooks, which is pretty good. That includes shoes, a top and a bottom. So we're going to do that again this Friday, Saturday, regular hours. So come on down. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Bonnie Bahler and Kerry Pine from Pelvic Wellness Center. And the topic tonight is incontinence. So it's one of those topics that is a lot more prevalent than it's talked about. So I'm very excited to have Bonnie and Kerry here. And welcome.
Hopping in. Yeah. Hi ladies, I am Bonnie Bahler. As Susan said, I'm one of the physical therapists at Pelvic Wellness Center.
And my name is Kerry Pine, and I'm a student resident physical therapist at Pelvic Wellness Center right now. And I get the pleasure of kind of steering us off in the right direction tonight. So as you know, we're here to talk about incontinence, or leaking urine with exercise. And we know it's not everyone's necessarily favorite topic of conversation, or certainly not the one you want to lead with a group of strangers. But like Susan said, it is a lot more common than people want to realize or are often comfortable talking about. And it's something that we talk about every day, day in and day out. So we're excited to be able to be here to share some information with you guys and sort of open that conversation and get you some good education about how you can help manage symptoms if you're currently experiencing them, or prevent them from even developing in the first place. So incontinence in general really is just any involuntary loss of urine. And usually what happens when that occurs with exercise is a kind of special type of incontinence that we call stress urinary incontinence. And that's really just involuntary loss of urine with a sudden increase in intra-abdominal pressure, right? So a sudden increase in the pressure in your abdomen that sort of weighs down on the pelvic floor. And often when we experience incontinence or leakage, it's just because of a failure to sort of adequately manage that pressure system. And so urine sort of sloops out when we don't exactly want it to happen. And while it is super common, it's definitely, and we can't reiterate this enough, not a normal thing to happen. I think it's because it is so common, we all just sort of let it roll off our shoulders and say, oh, it's just a part of getting older.
Welcome to the club.
Welcome to the motherhood club, or to the I still want to run, or I still want to do my weightlifting, and this is just what I have to accept with as a normal part of aging or childbearing and that kind of thing. And that's simply just not the case. Leaking with exercise, or any other activity for that matter, is not normal, and there are definitely things that you can do to help manage that.
Not even those sneaky sneezes.
Right.
They're not okay.
So that increase in pressure occurs with exercise, right? With repetitive increased pressure, with a heel strike, with that load that has to go through your body. But like Bonnie said, with a cough, with a laughing fit, with a sneeze, with a heavy lift, with trying to wrangle a toddler or grandchild. So there's lots of different cases where we can get that increase in pressure. So I keep talking about this pressure system, so we wanted to go over this kind of idea of what is your core, what is your pressure management system? And we have a fun little prop to do that. So if you envision the core system as a balloon, the top of the balloon is your diaphragm, which is really your primary breathing muscle. And it kind of sits right here at the bottom of your rib cage. And then at the bottom of your balloon, or bottom of your pressure system, is your pelvic floor, which is this sort of specialized group of muscles that helps to kind of support the pelvic contents and helps with postural alignment when we're moving and grooving. So the top and the bottom sort of go together. As we inhale, the diaphragm contracts and descends, putting pressure on those abdominal organs and putting pressure down on the pelvic floor, and it should, as a result, be able to dynamically relax and stretch in order to accommodate that pressure. So we sort of get a downward pressure from the top and a bulge at the bottom. And then when we exhale, the diaphragm ascends, relieving that pressure, and the pelvic floor should reflexively sort of contract and go back to its sort of resting state of tone. So we get this kind of pistoning mechanism where the top goes down, the bottom goes down, the top goes back up, the bottom goes back up. And then the sides of our pressure system are made up. This is our spine. Notice, lovely little artwork here.
I'm really good at art.
Those muscles that attach to our spine and provide stability there. And then more specifically, this deep abdominal muscle known as the transversus abdominal muscle. And it actually attaches along that spine and wraps all the way around to the front and attaches to the bottom of your rib cage and to the top of your pubic bone and everywhere in between. And that muscle really acts kind of like a girdle or a corset and helps when we contract to provide stability and pressure management to that core system. So just like this balloon, or just like a soda can, if you wanted to envision that, anytime you shake it up, or if you, like me, leave it in the freezer a little bit too long and have dire consequences, anytime there's an increase in pressure, there has to be a way for the system to either accommodate it, or that pressure is going to find the path of least resistance, right? And with incontinence, that generally occurs through the pelvic floor because we have this inability to manage that pressure, but it can also manifest in different ways through the abdomen, like a hernia, inguinal or umbilical hernia, or even in the back with disc issues in the back. So really what we want to talk about is kind of ways and strategies to help manage the pressure that occurs in your pelvic or your core system to help decrease the load that your pelvic floor has to support. Everyone with me so far? Okay, good. So some of the factors that can be contributing to the development of incontinence are strength, right? Everyone has heard of a Kegel or a Kegel, which is really just a pelvic floor muscle contraction. And sometimes I think it's really advertised in social media these days as just do more Kegels, right? To strengthen your pelvic floor. And while strength can be an issue, it's not always the primary or the only issue involved in being able to manage this pressure. Another factor that can be involved is endurance. The pelvic floor is just like any other muscle in your body, like your bicep. We might have the strength to lift up that grocery bag or to manage that pressure, but if we have to do it 10, 15 times, it gets tired and it fatigues out. And
Or if you're trying to hold it
right
while you're doing a 5K, walking, running, skipping, or anything, it's not meant to hold for that whole time, and it's going to fatigue.
Right. And it's actually been documented that in athletes, they usually experience more episodes of incontinence or leakage towards the end of a workout or towards the end of a run. And that's hypothesized that that's because of that endurance factor, right? We're not meant to hold it or grip it or even use it that many times in a row, and that can be trained, but it's also sometimes a point of weakness. So we have strength, we have endurance, and we also have coordination. Sometimes we have the strength of the muscle and we have the ability to hold it, but it's not turning on at the right time, right? It might be a little bit delayed or just not coordinated when we need to laugh or cough or sneeze or take those repetitive steps. So sometimes it's a matter of just timing the use of those muscles to be at the right time for when we need them. Another thing is posture, right? Every muscle has sort of an optimal length at which it functions its best. Our bicep works best when it's sort of in a flexed position, not when it's totally extended out. The muscles that make up your abdomen and your core and your pelvic floor are the same way. If our posture is a little bit off, it can change the optimal way that those muscles function and can actually help or contribute to an increase or a not enough sustaining of that pressure in order to keep our continence mechanism intact. And those are all sort of internal mechanisms that happen. And then sort of on the other side of the coin is external mechanisms, right? So if we're working on all these things to keep our pressure system managed, we can also work on ways to limit the force that we're putting through our body, right? So are there ways that we can change the way we're landing on our foot, the way that our stance is when we're lifting, the way that our posture is, and the tempo at which we run that can limit the pressure that's going through our body as a way to mitigate the stress and the load that the pelvic floor has to endure.
To make a long story short, what she's saying is it might not just be Kegels, right? And so a one-stop shop for fixing urinary incontinence is just not gonna be feasible. There's so many different reasons or contributors. You know, Kerry's stress incontinence could be different than mine. If mine is just, oh, when I look over to talk while I'm walking, ooh, I feel that urgency, or no leakage at all, and hers is at the end of her run when she's powering at the end to finish and goes and speeds up her pace, that's when she leaks. We might have totally different contributors. And so is it my posture? Is it just my bladder habits? Do I hold it too long and only go a couple times a day? When I did pee before my run or walk, did I empty my bladder all the way? How we sit, it could be a lot of times with our patients, it's something simple like that, just how they sit on the toilet and not emptying their bladder all the way. So there's a lot of things we look at in pelvic health physical therapy. What you can expect in an appointment is we look at 3 main pillars for urinary incontinence. The first is your habits. How often are you going to the bathroom? What position are you going in? And is everything coming out? The second thing we look at is what are you drinking and how much and when. So actually how you drink your fluids matters, the type of fluids you drink matter. A natural part of aging is not urinary incontinence, but increased bladder lining sensitivity is. So you may have always been able to drink coffee before going on a walk or a run when you were in your 20s or 30s, but maybe in your 50s and 60s, now it's like, ooh, I'm really feel urgency or something with it. And it's not just a normal part of aging, but the sensitivities to the types of fluids you drink is a normal part. So we look into those things. Those are the first 2 pillars, what you put in and your daily habits. And then the third is musculoskeletal. We do a whole posture assessment. If it's walking or running or certain parts, we break down, okay, what part of the movement are you feeling it? And we watch what your form looks like. What does your heel strike look like? What's activating? Are you turning? Is it when you twist this way? So we can find out the motor part of it and then help you put the pieces of the puzzle together and not live with leaking. It's not part of the club. Part of the club is being an advocate. You know, my friends always laugh when we're together because it always comes up with, no, don't say that. And when they're like, oh, I'm gonna tinkle. No, that's not okay. Let's not talk about fix it. Tighten your muscles and go to the bathroom and empty and we'll laugh again. So yeah, I want to encourage all you ladies just to not be shy about it, to ask the questions, ask your providers questions, ask us questions. We provided all our contact information on our websites, and we love to just email us or contact us on our social media. We'd love to just answer any questions you might have, because sometimes it's something quick and little, or you know, if it might be appropriate for you. But the main thing is be a good advocate for yourself, and if something's bothersome, even if it's a little drip or nothing ever comes out, but it's just that feeling of the urgency or some discomfort, these are all things to really start thinking about and asking the questions, because it's a warning signal from your body saying something's not in place, something's not firing right. And if it were any other thing, if it was fecal leakage, you would have been first flight, okay, doctor, what's going on? You know, but don't settle for this just because it's urinary and we're females and it's kind of just considered okay and normal. But do you know where you wanted to add, Miss Kerry?
Nope. I mean, that's kind of what I was leading into, is that every body is different. We all have different life experiences, different exposures to different activities, and no 2 people are going to come with the same presentation. So that's why people like us exist, right? Is we try to do some of the legwork for you and figure out what aspect is contributing most to your experience of incontinence. And sometimes it is a quick fix, one behavioral change or one little change to your habits or the way that you carry yourself, and it can be a pretty quick resolution. And sometimes we have to dig a little bit further. But as physical therapists, we're movement specialists. That's what we do. And as pelvic health specialists, we just have a little bit more narrow focus and really focus on that, like I said, specialized kind of network of muscles that make up the pelvic floor, that zone no one wants to talk about or think about, and no one really does until something goes wrong. So we're here to start that conversation and make a safe, comfortable, happy, fun place to talk about stuff that no one wants to talk about. We'll listen to it all day long.
And we're both athletes, and so I am stubborn. I don't like to modify. I want to push through and do things, but I have learned that my body can work and I can do such greater things when I listen to it. When I listen to it and I stop and I listen to its warnings and I modify my behaviors and I, get things on the right track, it impacts so much more than just like, oh, I just need to do a Kegel, or I had a baby, I'm just gonna keep I'm a sprinter, I don't do the long distance stuff, but yeah, don't push through these things.
Does being overweight lead to incontinence? That's a question from out there.
Oh, being overweight. Oh, we got a question.
So maybe you can repeat that.
Yeah. Does being overweight lead to incontinence? Well, I wouldn't say it's a direct correlation, but there's, just like how we talked about the musculoskeletal and the behavioral aspects, if you have weakness in bigger muscles that are supposed to be supporting your skeletal structure, do you think you're going to be getting optimal support from the little tiny pelvic floor muscles? Probably not. So if you are overweight and you're having urinary incontinence, it could be due to a multiple amount of things. Are you not firing the appropriate support muscles that help support your internal organs? Or is it dietary considerations? Is it how you're sitting on the toilet? Is the bladder fully emptying? There's a lot of components to it. So I wouldn't say it's directly linked with weight and incontinence, but it's the same factors that could impact someone who just had a baby and incontinence, or someone who's just got done with surgery and incontinence. So it's the same factors, not necessarily the weight itself.
I'm going to see if there's any other questions there and ask. And does anybody else have questions here? Because Bonnie and Kerry are very open to answering questions. I think over there.
Yeah.
Many of us have the habit of holding it and not going to the bathroom when we need to. Oftentimes, teachers, interpreters, we can't leave a work environment when we need to. So how do you fix that problem? And again, I mean, the damage has already probably happened, but.
No, the good thing about the bladder is it's very easily trained, good and bad habits. So we see a lot of teachers, nurses, people who cannot just leave and have to hold for long periods of time. In those situations, we teach them better bladder habits during the day, setting yourself up for success when you know you're going to be in a situation where you can't leave or go on an extended drive, or it's just, you need to take care of yourself and know your body's limits. And so if you needed to take a sip of water or have other health reasons, we would listen and respond to them. So it's gaining the strength to be like, stop, no, before I go into this room, or after recess, I need to stop in and go in here, or call someone to watch the kids out at recess while I go into the bathroom. Healthy bladder habits is emptying every 3 to 4 hours. So if you're going longer than 4 hours without voiding, we got a workplace issue, right? So 3 to 4 hours is a healthy bladder filling and emptying schedule. We should void about 6 to 8 times in a 24-hour period. So going more frequently than every hour is called dysfunctional, and holding longer than 4 hours creates dysfunction in the bladder as well. Does that answer your question?
Okay, I have a question.
Hold on, just a quick follow-up. If there is damage that has already happened to the bladder, or bad habits that have already been established, so how do I change my habits if I'm already having some incontinence issues when I'm running? You know what I mean? So how do I fix these issues? How do I have these old bad habits and still, can it be fixed?
Yes, the bladder, that's why we love the bladder. The bladder is like a quick train. It can so quickly learn bad habits, because you can say, stop, no, and then, oh, I don't have to pee anymore. But it's so easily trained good habits. We call it like adult potty training or bladder retraining. You can train it right. Just think back. If you've had children and had a potty trained toddler, you set yourself on a timer or schedule. The problem with holding too long is you lose urinary urge sensation. So it's easy to keep overfilling the bladder, but the problem with overfilling the bladder is when you finally do go pee, you have this stretched out, weaker bladder, and it doesn't fully empty. And so you think, oh, I had a big pee, I just went, and now I'm walking or on my run. Why do I feel like I could go again? Well, because you probably still have a lot more pee in that bladder, right? So we train it by, you stick on a schedule and let it fill to about 16 ounces, sit and fully empty, fill and fully empty, because the bladder itself is a muscle, so you can just retrain it, and being on a schedule is strengthening it so it squeezes and fully empties all the urine when you go.
And sometimes with changing those behavioral things, changing how frequently you go to the bathroom, how frequently you drink water, you can see pretty quickly even a carryover change into symptoms of incontinence just from changing that and changing the way that your bladder responds, just being kinder to your bladder and helping it to function in the way that it was meant to function, to hold the amount it was meant to, and to completely empty the amount that it was meant to help kind of relieve that stress on the system.
You guys are making me have to go to the bathroom.
Fight it, don't.
I'm thinking about it, so now I have to go.
And so it sounds like if you pee right before you run and then you still pee again after you run, you probably didn't get it all out.
Yeah, most likely. Well,
Most likely. It is
sometimes
normal to have,
because the muscle pump function of running and exercising, you're getting some lymphatic drainage, you're going to create more urine after you exercise. But to sit and void and feel like you had a big pee and then you just go out and take a couple steps, or you're jogging and go to lap and it's like, oh, I can't make it the rest of the run, or I need to stop and walk. That should not be happening. So.
I'll see if there's any more questions. I found out.
Yes,
we have
handouts and
packets
folders
for
here.
people here.
Mhm.
It sounds like I'm being joking, but I'm not, which is, can you demonstrate how we should be sitting on the toilet? If you're talking about, because I always think about leaning forward.
Here's
and
my
Yeah.
toilet. I can be your model.
Yeah, so think think a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want a folding chair? Maybe.
So we can
Yeah, there we go.
I don't know.
get out
we
the
might
folding
have to
chair.
like
Well, if it's right here, people will
smush it
see.
lower.
I'll check. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it'll be visible. Okay, so sitting on the toilet, pants and underwear should be below the knees so that you can open the structures, right? When we are wearing just our tight running leggings and have them just right here, everything's like squished together. Do you think your pelvic floor can really relax and the bladder can squeeze and everything fully empty? Not so much. So open it up. Let's not be ladylike. You can void here, sit. When you feel like it's all empty, you can do a little tilt forward. Gravity is not our friend, as you can tell from other parts of our bodies. It affects everything. So your bladder is not off limits. The bladder has gravity effect on it too. So if it's not hung as high and tight as it used to in your younger years, then tip forward so the bladder can fully empty, right? So tip forward and then reach like you're going to touch your toes. Sit back up and give a little shake. So it is true, men after they urinate, they need to shake their penis, and that clears out the rest of that urine in the urethra. If we just give a little shake, we're going to get the rest of it out. Sometimes just shifting your position on the toilet and your bladder will start squeezing and peeing some more. So yeah, who knew?
I've also, if it's still an issue, sometimes you can do the little stand up, sit back down, get a little change in gravity, make sure everything's out. Because sometimes it's with the first couple steps after
You're like,
going the little.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
So sometimes if you get a little tissue and just do a little stand up, sit back down, it can be enough to get that extra shift in gravity.
Or, you know, where the bladder is, push. If it feels like there's still a lot in there, you probably still have some in there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Tell me the name of your business again.
The Pelvic Wellness Center. Yeah, we're on Capitol Street. Carrie here has some folders. It just has some brief information about urinary incontinence with walking and running, and some little tips and tricks and exercises you can try, because I know it's not one size fits all, but if you try to implement healthy bladder habits, which we have in there as well, then it gives you a few little timing exercises like the claw drill, which is a good running drill, and it's working on breath control with foot strike. That's a good one. Or it's called the running man, little single leg with a and coming up and planning with the timing of your abdominals and breath control. That just helps with the coordination of the muscles. Yeah, and we also put in how to do a Kegel. You know, a lot. If the doctor says, oh, you should probably do Kegels, or you read that in Cosmo magazine, then everyone's like, I think I'm doing it. I would say half the time when we see patients, we're like, show me your Kegel, and they do the opposite. We're like, no, don't do it, don't push. So, you know, it's, a lot of times we don't know. We don't know what we don't know, And so it's good to just check it out, right?
Okay, we have to, thank you so
Yes.
much.
Yeah.
This was
Thank you,
great.
everybody. Thanks for having
This is
us.
great. So, once again, the business, Pelvic Wellness Center.
Yep, Pelvic Wellness Center of Salem. Yep.
And there's a wonderful website with lots of information on there. So here's some handouts right here. If other people want handouts, can we get them from you?
Yep, just our email is in there. We have little flyers with our email on it, and just pop us an email and we can send you some of our information. Yeah, we can email you a copy of the flyers or more information if you'd like.
Okay, I'll probably hear from them. They can, let me know. I'm going to come over here.
Can you get doctor's referrals?
Yes, we can see you.
Let me know if you want one of those handouts, and I'll get the information from Kerry and Bonnie. And with that, thank you very much. We'll see you out there. Have a great week. And next week is safety.
Good job, ladies. That was very good. Short and sweet, but to the point. Yeah.